You're listening to A Tiny Homestead, the podcast comprised entirely of conversations with homesteaders, cottage food producers, and crafters, and topics adjacent. I'm your host, Mary Lewis. A Tiny Homestead podcast is sponsored by Homegrown Collective, a free-to-use farm-to-table platform, emphasizing local connections with ability to sell online, buy, sell, trade in local garden groups, and help us grow a new food system. You can find them at homegrowncollective.org. Today I'm talking with Dawn at Dawn's Dirt, and Dawn was a guest on my show not 2 weeks ago and told us about what she does, but today we're going to be a little more focused and we're going to talk about homesteading and farming and gardening once you get past the age of 40, especially as a woman. Good morning, Dawn. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity again. I just love talking about these things. So, yeah, it's good.
Me too. And so if we're talking about when you get past 40, obviously I'm past 40. I'm 55. I think you told me you're 44. Is that right?
I was just going to say, who says I'm past 40? But I'm just teasing. Yes, I'm
Oh,
44.
well, I almost had to edit all that out. Okay, so the first thing I want to say is aging is a privilege denied to many. And so I'm really glad that I'm getting older and hopefully wiser. Trying anyway. But there are some real things that come with getting older, especially with our bodies and manual labor. So, how's that going for you, Dawn? Because I will share mine after you share yours.
For sure. Make me go first. Well, I'll tell you this. Like, not a bigger, fatter woman, but I'm a bigger woman. I'm tall and I've got big bones and I've got good muscle structure. So I can actually lift and outlift a lot of people. I was just thinking back this morning. I went to the gym for a couple of months just after I got through my busy season on the farm. And on the farm, I could lift, 3 buckets of potatoes, which was about 150 pounds. And I went to the gym and deadlifted 185 pounds. So I can do it. I am stronger than most, but I'll tell you this, like my back hurts a lot of the time and my lower back and my upper back and into my neck. It hurts a lot of the time. And I've learned, I used to be able to do the 150 pounds in one shot and just do it and bust it done. But I've learned in the last couple of years here that I'm better off to do 3 trips of 50 pounds than 1 trip of 150 pounds. Like it's harder. Everything aches a bit more. And I fall into bed at night and I'm just physically exhausted, tired from doing physical work.
Yeah, and it takes longer to recover once you get past 40 as well.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean,
Sorry.
my youngest son still lives with us and he's 23 and his job is to help us out on the quote unquote farm. And this kid can just bust his ass for 2 days in a row, be mildly sore the next day, and the fourth day from the first day, he's like, let's do it again. I'm like, nah, I'm not doing anything. You can go play. You do it.
For sure. And I found that too, back when I had my farm, I would have to, in the spring, I'd have to get my boiler system going again. And so what that involved was taking a ladder around the greenhouse and crawling up it and crawling back down it, opening the valves and things like that. And so I was up and down ladders, up and down ladders, up and down ladders all day for a full day. And I could do it while I was going because once I'm moving, I'm moving. But let me tell you, the next day when I try and do it again, my body says, you do not want to do this again. Like it just took longer the next day. And I was sore for several days after that.
Yeah, it's just your muscles don't recover the way they did when you were young. And part of it is that your body has expended a metric butt ton of energy up to the age of 40 because you had all the energy in the world. And at some point, your body's just like, you can go easier now. I give you permission by telling you to stop.
Yeah, the problem is my brain doesn't want to stop and I just keep pushing. And so yeah, it's not the same as I was. When I sold my farm, and then starting this new farm, I'm starting over from scratch and I'm, doing cleaning jobs and, have my animals and my gardens and things like that again. And I'm doing it on my own. I'm a single mama and yeah, it was easier the first time around to keep up and do it all and work, 12, 14, 16-hour days. And now I'm like, a 12-hour day, like a 16-hour day right now it 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 basically makes me unusable on the Friday. I still have to work. I still have to keep going, but yeah, I'm sore and I'm tired and I'm a bit grumpy the next day.
Exactly. And the thing that I get a kick out of is I used to stay up till, 2 in the morning, and I would get up at 5:30 a.m. and grab a shower and get ready to go to my job when I was 18, 19. And I would do that for a couple weeks in a row. I'd get a couple hours of good sleep. And then after that 2 weeks, I would take a weekend and just crash. I would sleep most of the weekend because that's how I did it. Now, I can't do that anymore. I really love sleep. Like, sleep is where I recover. It's where I dream. It's where I get to just not have to think about anything purposely. I love sleep. I love sleep more than I love food.
I I'm so sorry. I've got this little tickle still.
Mm.
Um, yeah, absolutely. People would say to me all the time when I had my farm and was running 3 companies and had 30 people on payroll and was doing all the things that I had and the stress load and all of it, people would say like, how are you even surviving? Like, how are you even doing it? And I would say to people, I sleep. That is how I survived it, is I slept and I slept hard, and I'm still like that. When I go to bed at the end of the day, I sleep and I sleep hard and I don't wake up during the night, and the next day I get up and I do it again. And that's the only thing that saved me was my sleep. If I didn't sleep hard, I think I'd be a puddle on the floor.
Yeah, I have said this on the podcast a bunch of times, and I probably should stop saying it, but it's the truth. My husband snores. And so I try to be asleep by 9 o'clock at night at the latest, so that I get at least 4 hours of solid sleep before he will wake me up with his snoring. And I'm telling you, we're going to have to figure out a better sleeping arrangement, because this 4 hours of solid sleep a night is about killing me. We have to figure something out. I don't know what's going to happen, because I can do the podcast. Obviously, I sit down, I talk to you guys, it gets my adrenaline boosted and all the happy endorphins kick in and I feel great. But if I had to do a real job on somebody else's schedule, it would not be possible at this point. I swear to you.
Yeah, well, sleep is what fuels us. People discount sleep. Sorry, I'm gonna take a drink.
Mhm.
I'm sorry. Yeah, sleep is what fuels us. People need sleep just like they need sunshine, just like they need food, just like they need water. Sleep is another set of fuel that just feeds us. And I know for myself, like in the summertime, I can handle 6 to 7 hours of sleep a night. And then in the wintertime, I like 8 or 9 hours of sleep. It's just the way my body is. But if I don't get that 6 or 7 hours of good solid sleep, I start to cry, actually.
Uh-huh.
That's when I really start getting weepy, is when I don't have enough sleep. And I've been like that. My mom has said I've been like that even since I was little. If I would start crying, my mom would say, "Oh, Dawn needs to go to bed." And it's true. I wake up the next day and I'm okay again.
Yeah, I get weepy or I get really snarky, and I have to work really hard to keep my thoughts in my own head and not let them out of my mouth. So, yeah, it's not good.
I think that's an over 40 thing, you lose you gain your confidence and you lose your inhibitions to, like, in some ways, care. Like, I don't care what you think or what you whatever, and it just comes out your mouth. I think that gets worse and worse as we get older and older, because I can see it more in my mom, and then I can see it even more in my grandmother now, is that the thought process and the thoughts are just coming out of the mouth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is going to be a very interesting podcast. I used to have a really sharp tongue when I was, probably from 10 years old until I was in my early 20s. And it was partly because I was brought up on the East Coast, and East Coast people are very blunt. So I was raised around very blunt people. The other thing is that I was insecure. And so insecurity sometimes comes out sideways, especially verbally. And it took me a long time to count to 10 in my head before I would say the thing that wanted to just pop out. And I'm a lot better these days, but man, if I am exhausted, I choose not to be around anyone because it's so much harder to keep that mean streak inside of my head, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I've gotten better too. But for me, I'm Dutch background, like my heritage is Dutch, and the Dutch are known for being direct. And I'm not necessarily unkind, I'm not necessarily mean, but I just am very direct. If it's in my head, I'm going to say it. And it's not mean, it's just literal and direct. And so, yeah, I think there's a bit of a difference between being just literal and direct and mean. And I can't
Yes.
say I'm mean with my comments.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not going out of my way to be bitchy with people. I just have to think about the delivery because how someone receives what you say is in how you deliver it, what words you choose, and what tone of voice you say it in. And the more tired I am, the less careful I am with both of those things.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, I
So
think we all are to some degree as women, we're just created like that. I don't know. But I do also think that there's a difference between a kind bitch and a mean bitch. Have you heard of that before? Or what's your thought on that? A kind bitch and a mean bitch.
I don't know. I think a kind bitch is going through things and things that she says come out sounding bitchy. And I think a mean bitch is just a mean bitch.
Yes. I
Is that
I would
right?
agree. And yeah, I think so. And I've run across both. And I sometimes I've been called a bitch, but it's just because I'm direct. But I'm not unkind in it. I'm just very direct and just call a spade a spade. Whereas a mean bitch is out to get you. I think one has selfish motivation and one has just is just direct.
Yeah, and I think that the kind one has no spoons left. You know how people say I'm out of spoons, which means I have nothing left for today.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I've never thought of that, but yeah, you're right. The kind one just yeah, you're right. She gives and she gives and she gives of herself till she's got nothing left. Yeah, you're 100% correct.
Yeah, there are days where my husband's had a rough day at work and I've had a long day here and things are going on for me and I'm just like, "Honey, I'm out of spoons. I'm going to bed." And he's like, "Good night. I love you." I'm like, "I love you too." Night.
See, and sorry, I cut you off.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think that's a healthy relationship and a healthy couple to just say, "Hey, I'm out." I saw a quote from, I think it was Brene Brown, I think. And she said that she comes home to her husband at the end of the day and they'll say where they are on a scale of 1 to 10. And she'll say, "I've got a 3." And he'll say, "I've got an 8." And so they'll just meet each other where they're at. And sometimes she'll be higher and he'll be lower. And, to just meet each other where they're at. And I think that's good communication. And that's where you can really build a strong, healthy relationship is to know that if you're both at it too, rather than wasting your energy on fighting, just stop for the day.
Yep.
Tell each other you love each other and carry on.
Yeah, exactly. And there are times, I mean, this is really funny. I did not expect to be talking about this today, but we're going to talk about it anyway. Um, when you are in a long-term relationship, there's a lot of patience and respect required to make it work. And when I started the podcast, I was so obsessed, I was consumed with learning how to do it that I was putting in 45-hour weeks one way or another. And after a couple weeks, I was just swamped. I was like, I need somebody else to do the dishes because I've got to do this thing for work. And I haven't really had a job in years. And I finally sat my husband down and I said, now that I've made myself a job where I'm the boss and the CEO and the COO and everything, I said, could I get a little help with some of the dishes and maybe folding laundry? And he was like, oh my God, I didn't even think of that. Of course you can. I said, thank you. That would be wonderful. And so he and the kid have been pitching in, and both of them love to cook. So 2 nights a week, I just give them free rein. I'm like, go make whatever you want to make for dinner. I will grab a bowl of granola. I don't care. I'll eat something else because they're like really spicy food and I do not. So 2 nights a week, I don't have to cook. And those are
That's
the nights that I try to schedule podcast episodes to record them with people who need that time in the evening because they're not available during the day.
That's amazing, honestly. Like, and that's what a family unit is picking up where someone else can't pick up. And I'm single now. I've been
Mhm.
single for 6 years now. But to be really honest with you, I'll tell you about some parts of my marriage is we were not teammates. We were not team players.
Mhm.
My ex-husband, he's a decent man. He's not a bad man at all. But his work ethic and my work ethic didn't match and didn't align. And so I would work a 12, 14, 16-hour day, and he would work, a 3 or 4 or 5-hour day. And I'd come home and he's watching TV. And on a farm or a homestead, like that just, it doesn't work. You have to have high drive and high work ethic to make a farm go.
Mhm.
And yeah, we just weren't aligned, and I tried changing that, but 16 years of marriage taught me that I can't change someone. And so ultimately it did end our relationship. There was a few other things behind closed doors, but yeah, the not being aligned in work ethic was a huge problem in, respect and love within our marriage.
Mhm. Yeah, you've got to have not the same goals, but I think you have to have the same core fundamental values as your
Yes.
partner.
For sure. And if you're not on the same page, like it's just not going to work, especially as teammates, especially on a farm or, trying to reach the goals when one person is. I always say I picked up all the drop balls behind him. And the heaviest drop ball I picked up behind him was I took on 100% of our debt and I bought him out of the farm and he moved to our house in town. And yeah, that it's just not, we're not meant to do that. Like that doesn't work in a partnership. And so yeah. And so I've been single here for 6 years now, trying to build it back on my own. And in some ways it's good because I don't have to answer to anybody. I don't have to ask anyone's permission to do this or do that. But I do push myself because I am a single mom, and doing this by myself. I do tend to push myself just that much harder, and after 40, it's tough.
Yeah, how old are your kids, Dawn?
So my girls, I've got 3 daughters, so they are 14, 16, and 18, and there's that little meme that says, when I was a kid, I had to roll my chores were rolling the garbage bin down the driveway, and my girls, the farm depends on it. So even when my girls were younger, they would come with me to farmers markets, and so they would work their little butts off and they would work with me and we would do it as a team and we spent lots of time together. And then when I sold my farm, interestingly enough, several people said, "Oh, you have more time for your girls now." And I said, "Actually, no, it's the opposite because I took a full-time job last summer
Yeah.
and I did not see my kids because I couldn't take them to work with me." And so this summer I'm doing it on my own again. And they help me. They help me load my chickens, my meat birds into the trailer the other night. They sure didn't want to, but they did it. And I'm so thankful for my daughters for doing the things that they can do to help me for the farm, and that's that meme is my chores were rolling the garbage can down the driveway, and the other farm kids, the farm depends on it if they do their chores or not, because there's bigger stakes on a farm.
I am so proud of you. You are a good mom because you are teaching them so many things that are going to help them later on.
Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. They are really good kids, honestly, and they have work ethic themselves. They are sought after in our community to do jobs and to work farmers markets and do different things. And ironically, like 2 of my children, well, all 3 of them in different roles are going to work for my former farm. The people that bought my farm are going to work, they're going to work for them as employees this year. And it's pretty cool. Last summer we weren't ready for that, but this summer they genuinely want to help and see that farm survive because farming is so important. And it's a way for them to still feel connected to their childhood, to the way they were raised. It's pretty cool, actually.
That's beautiful. I love that. Okay, so now that we've talked about relationships and partnerships and coupling and uncoupling and all the things I don't usually talk about on the podcast. Um, it's for me this whole thing about being over 40. It really kicked me in the ass when I was 44, so I was your age, and I will tell you what happened. My husband was replacing a window in one of our son's bedrooms in the old house. It was a little tiny window, and he needed help with something because he was actually out on the roof, and I was in the room on the inside where the window was. And he had asked me to hand him something through the open window space. And I knelt down, and there was carpet in that room. It was like a ugly shag carpet, so it was a really long, deep pile. And I knelt down, and I felt something under my knee, and I tried to move so that I wouldn't put all my weight on my knee on the thing, and rocked my knee funny, and also ended up on this screw that was in the carpet, and hurt my knee. And I didn't think anything of it. I was like, oh, that's going to hurt tomorrow, and I'll walk it off and I'll be fine. And a year later, if I moved my knee wrong, it still hurt. And I was like, oh, we have hit the I can't necessarily walk injuries off anymore stage. That's when I knew that I was over 40.
Okay, you're putting some fear into me because I haven't had that experience yet, but I'm sure it's coming. Because I'm that same way. Like, ooh, I hurt myself, or ooh, that smarted a bit. And yeah, I've always been the one to walk it off. You know, if it hurts in some places, like it'll if it comes by itself. That's what my mom always said. If it comes by itself, it's gonna go away by itself. And you know, I'm very much like that. I kind of personally avoid the doctor like the plague, and yeah, I just grunt it off and walk it off. And so you're saying it's coming. It's going to hit that one of these days I can't do that.
Yeah, it's coming. I'm sorry. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, Dawn, but yes, at some point you're going to injure yourself and be like, I think I might want to get that looked at this time.
Yeah. Well, and I can see it in my mom. I mean, my mom is I got my work ethic from my parents, and my kids are getting it from me. And my mom has recently, yeah, hurt her knee, and it was one of those things. She thought if it comes by itself, it'll go away by itself, and yeah, she's going to end up with a surgery over it. So
Mm-hmm.
she's been limping. And the thing with my mom that I must say, and she's older than both of us. She's 65,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't stop her. So even though she's limping, and even though she's using a crutch to walk a lot of the time, and things like that, she's still going on holidays. She is still planting her gardens. She is still doing the work required. Like, she's just a bulldozer. She's still doing what she needs to do, and she's not letting it stop her. And I think that there's um something to be said for that. When you let something stop you, when you get an illness, or when you let something, hold you back, I think it can hold you back from other possibilities as well. Whereas if you just accept it and work within it. I mean, we went to Cuba last January, and we got a wheelchair for in the airport, right? So
Yep.
she allowed us to help her, but she still did the things that she wanted to do. She just didn't say to us, well, I have a bummed knee, so I'm going to not go.
Yep. Exactly. So we've spent 23 minutes talking about stuff I don't usually talk about, and some of the stuff we wanted to talk about. So let's talk about how to support your own self, your body and your mind, to stay strong past 40, to continue doing the things. What I would say is you got to stay hydrated, number one. You got to get sleep, and you have to eat food that supports your body, because if you just eat junk food, you're done for.
I couldn't agree more. I've always been a proponent of my guts are like a dog, but I noticed the other day I forget what I had, but I had something the day before, and it was probably pasta. I've noticed it with pasta actually. If I eat pasta with, a sauce or whatever, especially if I've gone to a restaurant, the next day I'm quite lethargic. And I think that's to do with the food. And so quality food, quality water, quality sleep, I think those help you. They're the fuel for your body, and you're right. And so when you've got a homestead or you've got a farm, you've got access to these great foods. And yeah, sometimes I used to say with my farm, I sacrifice meals at my table to put food on others, but I'm still able to make different choices. I can grab the vegetables, or a salad, or just even a burger in a lettuce wrap even is something different than the burger and fries, or the chicken fingers and fries. And
Yeah.
so just making those different choices.
Yeah, and I'm going to say this, and I could be totally wrong, but it's my take, so it's my podcast, so I'm going to say it. I feel like all of the fried foods are not great for me, and I think they're not great for a lot of people. My husband and my son really do like to have, they like to make homemade donuts. Homemade donuts are made in vegetable oil or lard if you have it. And I can't do it. Like, I eat one donut and I'm like, okay, that's good for 6 months. That's it. Because I just feel so terrible that evening into the next day because it's not good for you. And it's not so much that the oil isn't good for you, it's what happens to the oil when it gets hot and then it's in the food and then you eat it.
Yeah, well, they made canola oil. Excuse me. They made canola oil for fuel. Like, it's meant to be biodiesel. So I have no issue with canola that's being used for biodiesel. And
Yeah.
I actually understand why big grain farmers use canola in their fields. It does clean up the weeds. And I know of a really cool farmer around these parts, and he has a 5-year rotation. So he only puts canola, which means he only uses Roundup in his field once every 5 years. And it does, it cleans up the weeds. But yeah, I don't think canola oil is meant to be food. I think it's meant to be fuel for our cars, gasoline, not or diesel, biodiesel. But
Yeah.
it's not meant to be ingested. But I think we've just like with a lot of things, I don't know if I can say these things now, but you can edit them out if you don't want me to. But I do think there's a lot of things that it's big business, and if you've got a big business and you've got money generated around it, so if you can sell it off as the canola as food, someone's gonna profit from that. And they've just done a really good job of trying to trick us into thinking that canola is food.
Well, it's like soda, or cola or pop or whatever people call it. You're in Alberta, Canada. What is a fizzy drink called?
Pop. We call it pop.
Okay. In Minnesota, it's pop. Where I grew up, it's soda. But there are name brand pops and sodas. I'm not going to disparage anybody by name because I don't want to get sued. But that's like 100 and something calories per can. That is completely empty calories. Your body doesn't gain anything from drinking it. And I would much rather have water with a squeeze of lemon juice and maybe a half a teaspoon of sugar. I have no problem with sugar. I have a problem with grams and grams and grams of sugar. It's not good for you. And, water is the thing that hydrates you. And sugar converts to, I don't know, carbs convert to sugar converts to whatever, energy. But if you're not actually burning the energy, it just builds up in your body and it makes you fat. So I just feel like we as Americans, Canadians, people in general, we eat things because we've been told it's okay, and it's not necessarily okay, and it's not necessarily good for our systems.
No, and I do think that there is a full pandemic, epidemic, I don't know what the right word would be, of that. If you look in your center aisles of a grocery store, a lot of that quote unquote food does turn to sugar, and sugar turns to fat if it's not burned off or not used. And I do think, and again with our sodas or pops, it's just not healthy. Like, there are some types of pops that can even be used as cleaner. Like, they'll clean the rust off of screws even. Like, how is this healthy to be putting into our bodies? Like, it just isn't. I don't think we've been designed for these foods, and I don't think, well, I don't even think they're food. And so that's where we need to get back to our roots. That's where it's so important. And that's why your podcast and my podcast and, teaching people to go back to their roots, eating from the land, having your eggs and your butters and your milks and your chickens and your garden and your vegetables and your lettuces and eating seasonally. I think that's how we're designed. We're supposed to eat those things from the land and be stewards of our land. And that's why these things are so important. And I think that's why there's a whole shift back into this, is because people are recognizing that the other food, quote unquote, is not food, and that the stuff that you're growing in your backyard is actually nourishing, good for you food.
Yep, exactly. And since we're rolling toward 30 minutes, I want to get this in. Once we women hit 40, it's really that 40 to 50 stage. You really do have to take care of yourself, because if you don't, your 50s, 60s, and 70s are going to be exhausting and painful, and you will wonder why you're even still here. So, and I don't want women to feel bad, because there's things that happen, like, oh, I raised 4 kids. I spent a lot of time on the floor playing blocks and Legos with them. And I would get down on the floor on my hands and knees and play with these kids. My knees freaking hurt a lot now because I had so much stress on my knees. I carried my kids on my hip until they were at least 60, 70 pounds. If they wanted to be picked up, I picked them up. And so my back took a lot of wear and tear. And there's a thing called repetitive motion injury. That's what I was doing to myself raising my kids. So expend all that good energy, live your life, do all the hard things you can do, all the physical things you can do while you're young. You will probably pay for it when you're older, but at least you got to do the things you love.
I agree. Like, I think that we're supposed to do that. We're supposed to care for our kids. We're supposed to do the work, you know? And I do think that it's about taking care of your body later on. And don't feel bad if you got a few extra pounds. It's all about how you feel. It's not about how you look.
Mm.
That's for sure. And I just think too, like, if your knees hurt or your back hurts, you know, just do what you can. Go for a walk. If you can only, you know, walk a little ways, just do that. It's doing what you're able to, and pushing yourself just a little bit even. That's what's going to keep you young and keep you going. I can think of my grandmother, she's well into her 90s, and she's still a go-getter, you know. Even when she was late 80s and early 90s, she was still working at the Tickle Trunk thrift store in her hometown, because that kept her busy, that kept her going. And I think it's when we become stagnant and stop and go, my knee hurts, therefore I have to sit on the couch for, you know, days and days on end. I think that's where the trouble comes in, not in it's not the fact that your knee hurts. It's if you, and I'm not saying push yourself to the point that it hurts even more, but you know, just do what you're able to do.
Yep, absolutely. And I guess what I'm getting at is don't beat yourself up in your heart and your head if you're not as active as you used to be, because you're not necessarily meant to be as active as you used to be. You're supposed to be as active as you want to and can be at the age that you're at.
I agree. Absolutely. It's doing what you can do
Yeah.
with the body you have. And I'll admit it, I actually had to do a bunch of online computer work yesterday, and that is not my strength. Like, I would rather be outside gardening and, you know, working with my animals and doing the physical thing outside. I would much rather be doing that. But yesterday I had to be on my computer more, and it tuckered me out, that mental strain and that mental whatever. And I took a little 10-minute cat nap at 3 o'clock. I just did. I hit a bit of a wall. I put myself into bed. I closed my eyes, and it was 10 minutes, but it just gave me a slight bit of fuel to keep going.
It was a power nap.
Yeah.
Yep. And those are great. Do that. And you can do that when you're 15, let alone when you're 50.
Yeah, absolutely. Just listen to your body and give it what it wants, you know? And I find too, even with food, my body is craving protein, and my body craves the good whole foods, the salads, the things like that.
Mhm. Yep, absolutely. I bit into a fresh, well, store-bought fresh sweet bell pepper. A month ago, we had gotten some for some recipe, and it was a decent pepper. It wasn't terrible. And I hadn't had, quote unquote, a fresh pepper since September. And I was like, oh my God, I always forget that I love bell pepper because I eat it for like 2 months in the summer and then that's it.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, so I had the greenhouse, and I'll tell you what, my little girls, they weren't actually tomato eaters. They didn't love the tomatoes, but they would eat those peppers as apples. Like,
Uh-huh.
I would even throw a pepper in their lunchbox. as an apple because they loved them. And my peppers were so sweet. That's the thing. Colored peppers. A green pepper is an immature red, yellow, or orange or purple or whatever. A green pepper is an immature pepper,
Yeah.
like a green tomato. But a colored pepper, they're ripe, and especially a sweet bell pepper, they should be sweet in flavor, not that bitter flavor. So.
Are the yellow, red, and orange, are they different levels of sweet?
Yes, I always found that my orange peppers were the sweetest, then red, then yellow. Here's another little tidbit of information. People always think that peppers go from green to yellow to orange to red. And I'm always like, no, they go green, orange, or green, yellow, or green, red, or green, white, or green, purple, whatever the colored pepper is. It starts off green, which is immature, and then it goes to the color. It doesn't go through this color changing process.
I learned something brand new today. Thank you, Dawn.
You're welcome. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's the little things, and that's why these podcasts are so important too. Is it's just the little things to connect people to their food and to farming and to agriculture, to know the little things. And so when you see a picture, I've seen this a couple of times. I've seen a picture of a pepper plant online, and it's got green, red, yellow, orange, what all the colors on the plant all at the same time, and I'm like, that's fake. That's not
Uh-huh.
possible. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah, that leads me to a thought that I will leave you with. I have been seeing commercials online on TV when we're watching YouTube, because we watch a lot of YouTube, because we're homesteaders, we need to learn things. And there's all these AI commercials now, and I swear to you, they creep me the hell out. They look like real people, except they don't move like real people. And I keep saying this, I'm like, I hate this so much.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Ugh.
that's yeah. AI, I think there's positives to it, but I don't know. I think the ultimate big picture and whatever of AI could be a little dicey and slicey, and that's why we need to get back to nature and homesteading and just doing things in our own spaces, because to rely on this big technological system is a little, for me, it's a little dicey. Um yeah, remember the toilet paper wars of 2020? I just think if something happened to, this is me getting slightly tinfoil hatty again. Like, I just think if something happens to our big system, we still need to get back to basics, and we just need to get back to food. And hopefully nothing ever happens. Hopefully I'm always wrong. But that's part of wanting to be on a farm or a homestead and have my own food, is just to know that I'm in control of it, not someone else.
Yeah, two really important words, self-sufficient and self-sustainable.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. And then teaching my kids where it all comes from. My kids know where good food comes from.
yeah, my husband just told me that he talked to our second kid. So I have four. I have a daughter, son, son, son. So first son called last night. He lives in Nebraska, and he and his wife are thinking about getting 5 goats, 4 does, and a buck.
I love
And
it.
and I said, 2 questions. And my husband said, what? And I said, where are they going to put them, and what are they going to feed them? Because they have like an acre. That's it. And they
Ooh.
don't have a whole lot of tree line that belongs to them. And so my husband was like, don't know, I didn't ask. And I said, okay, I will message him later, because I have friends that have goats. I grew up with a friend that had goats, and I know that it's going to get real expensive to feed those goats if they don't have some grazing area for them. So I think my kid and I are going to have a chat about goat husbandry at some point in the next week.
Yes, for sure. And they do. They eat a lot of food. They're constantly eating, and they'll eat anything. Yeah. I've got mine. I rotate them. I've got 2 does left, and I'm milking them actually for myself. And yeah, I rotate them. I don't own this property, but I have access to a lot of property, and yeah, I rotate them through. But I have to be careful where I put them, because if there's a tree there, or if there's a small tree there, they're going to eat those leaves and they're going to kill that tree. So yeah.
Yep. Yep. Okay, Dawn, thank you so much for coming back to visit. I appreciate it. Where can people find you?
So I'm Dawn's Dirt. You can find me online, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. I've got my own podcast, Dawn's Dirt. And I love these collaborations. So thank you so much for having me on the show yet again. And we just need more of this. I appreciate that you do this all the time. And we need more of this, homesteading, farm to table talks. So thank you so much for having me.
And a little bit of psychology and marriage counseling in there too.
Well, to me, I'm very raw and open and honest and authentic, and I got no secrets. I'll just I just say it. And so, yeah, I'm always happy to have a good, raw, real conversation. So thanks for going down some rabbit holes of, life with me.
I feel like it's all part of life, and homesteading is absolutely real and raw life. So we're doing it right.
Absolutely.
As always, you can find me at atinyhomesteadpodcast.com. Dawn, thanks again. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.